48 miles of range I've used in this car, yeah.
I can't be right. Welcome back to Evil GT. I'm Lee.
And I am Ben, and today we're going to be comparing the costs of this electric car
to this 6.2 litre Mercedes AMG.
and which one's cheaper.
In today's video, we're going to find out.
So I'm going to be sticking up for you electric car fanboys here, but I'm already at a disadvantage. The 50 Quattro is Audi's smallest battery capacity e-tron, but it's the heaviest car that they make.
So this is an AMG 6.2 litre V8 engine with a fuel capacity of 66 litres.
So with the 50 e-tron, it comes with a 71 kilowatt hour battery with a claimed range of 215 miles.
This does 23 miles to the gallon. This does 2.68 miles per kilowatt. How do you even work out what is the most economical car?
Well, surely this electric car is going to be more efficient than that big dirty V8 there. So Lee actually thinks this car is a complete and utter waste of time.
I do think it's a waste of time, and the reason I'm selling it, which you can find out in the previous video right there,
Yeah?
I'll tell you.
Okay. So listen, I love a V8 as much as the next person, right? But this is an electric car, mate. This is the future. You're driving it wrong. You're driving it like your V8, like you've got a lead foot.
Look, that might be the future in about 50 years when they've got all the charging infrastructure. I can definitely get this big dirty V8 to be just as economical as that electric car, if not better.
You're talking nonsense, mate.
So to make this a little bit more of a fair test and interesting for the viewer, we're not going to use home electricity, which would be considerably cheaper to fill this battery up. What we're going to do is we're going to use superchargers on the service station.
And how much are they?
40 pence a kilowatt. So it's going to cost £28 to fill this battery up.
As most of you will know, you can choose how much this actually charges up, whether it's up to 50% of the battery or 100% of the battery. However, even though it says 100% of the battery, it still isn't. It's around 80-85% of the battery to help protect the lithium ions.
To work out how much both cars are using, we're going to fill the Merc up to the top.
Right.
Then we're going to drive both cars. This should run out before the Merc.
You would think so, yeah. The range in that surely is going to be further than this. However, to make this test fair just for you, Doris.
Don't need to make it fair for
Just
me,
for you, we'll charge this only at the superchargers, 40 pence per kilowatt hour.
Yes.
How about that? Make it a bit more interesting.
Well, that's going to be a bit more interesting for you guys, because we could actually charge this car up at home for 10 pence a kilowatt.
Yes.
Which would only cost £7 to fill it up.
In a nutshell, what we're saying here is, this has cost £28 to fully charge.
Yep.
You just need to beat the £28 when we get back. So as long as the fuel you put in that doesn't cost any more than 28 quid, the journey has cost you less in your 6.2 litre V8. Is this what you're saying?
This is going to be good and economical and more fun than that. So before we go anywhere, have you sorted food out?
Of course I have, mate, and it is not Mackey's. I'll tell you what it is. Check your cup holder.
Oh yes, Y Foods.
So that brings us on to today's sponsor, Y Food. Thank you very much. This here is my actual favourite flavour, Happy Banana. It is delicious.
And as for the bars, these have 25 vitamins and minerals. They're low in sugar, high in fibre.
Gluten and lactose free. They're absolutely amazing. They keep you full for up to 5 hours. So for this road trip, we shouldn't have any issues getting hungry on the way there or back. I here have Happy Banana Shake, my favourite by a country mile. Delicious.
So there's absolutely loads of stuff on the Y Foods website. Go and check it out, see what you like. They even do taster packs. They do loads of stuff.
There's loads of different flavours, loads of stuff to choose from. Our link is in the description. Get yourself 10% off Evil GT10. Thank you very much to Y Food again for sponsoring this video.
So let's get out on the road and see if the C63 is anywhere as near as efficient as the e-tron.
Let the road trip commence. We're going to go to Matlock. It's roughly 130 mile round trip. Lee doesn't know this, but I have turned everything off. Air conditioning, heated seats.
Apart from not having a heavy right foot, there's only one thing I can do in this car to make it more fuel efficient, and that's have it in C, which I presume is comfort. Obviously I'm not going to put it in sport or sport plus, that's just going to use more fuel.
We are 174 miles range, it said, and that was with the screen saying it charged up to 100%, and it's already gone down to 172. I've probably done 3/4 of a mile, something like that.
Make sure you've got all the heaters on and sort of like aircon and stuff like that. Don't be turning everything off.
Well, I don't need heaters on, mate. It's glorious outside, but I've got all my air conditioning's on full blast. I've got my heated seats on at the same time, you know, just because I'm that confident.
Yeah, because you can't turn everything off, because that's not a fair test.
Nah, not off, mate. It's all on. Don't worry about it.
Make sure you're actually driving properly. You're not driving 56 down the motorway. Come on.
Doing 64 me, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. 64 miles per hour. Listen, I'm already down to 166 miles range. We've done like 2 miles.
How many miles did you start off?
174.
What's it in now?
165.
So that's 9 miles, but we've actually done 7 miles. So you're 2 down already.
And now it's 164. Stop talking to me. You're making my mileage go down. So the idea of this little trip out to Matlock was to just have a bit of a different experience with different roads. So we've got the motorway roads. There's not much chance for this car to regen. Well, there's no chance really. We've just come into a 50 mile an hour average speed, so I've hit a bit of regen.
I don't want to sound defeatist before we start, but I've been doing 50 mile an hour for the past 2 miles, and it's saying 25.2 miles to the gallon.
So that's what your car is averaging at 50 miles an hour, 25 miles to the gallon roughly.
Well, 25.1 now, so yeah.
Come on the e-tron. And to be fair, this, from what I can gather, is the least efficient way of using an electric car, surely, because there's no opportunity for it to regen. It's just sat at a constant speed using power constantly, so good luck, mate.
I need to actually get him to go faster in the e-tron, because that's the only way it's going to use more battery power up. And that's the thing, that in the real world is how you're going to drive it, so it's only going to be a fair test if we actually do a bit more speed.
So yeah, speeding up and slowing down is something that benefits an electric car from what people say, because obviously it has chance then to regen. So motorway, yeah, the quicker we get off this, the better.
Are you slipstreaming that car in front?
No, he's doing 50 mile an hour, I'm doing 50 mile an hour. It's a 50 mile an hour speed limit. So
I've just worked out, you're doing about 2 miles per kilowatt, and if a kilowatt's costing 40 pence, that's 20 pence a mile. Fuel for me is about £7 a gallon. I'm doing 23 miles to the gallon, so I reckon I'm not that far behind you on fuel cost.
We shall see, sunshine, we shall see. I've still got 151 miles range, flying, mate.
You're not even driving that properly. I've never seen you drive a car the way you're driving that car, ever in my whole life.
A man's got to do what a man's got to do, mate. I am winning this, I'm telling you.
You don't drive like that. You drive that car like you normally drive a car, and let's see how many miles you get out of it.
No, because we'd already be empty. Now we've stopped. I can actually, because I've not got the air conditioning on, I'm roasting. It's gorgeous today, 15 degrees. It's like Spain in the UK today. Don't tell Lee though.
So we're currently sat in traffic, and even though the e-tron's going to be feeling the pinch on the battery because obviously it's just crawling, this is actually feeling the pinch more. So it's a shame it's not got start-stop.
I'm pretty sure that Lee's car doesn't have start-stop. 6.2 litres just sat there running in this traffic here. Hang on a minute, let's ask him. So, Leroy, let me just ask, your car, does it have start-stop technology? I bet it doesn't, does it?
It does have start-stop technology, yeah. It's called My Hand.
That thing, to turn over 6.2 litres, it'll cost you more in fuel to turn it on and off yourself.
I'm starting to get annoyed now, because sat in this traffic for 5 minutes, I've lost 0.4 of a mile per gallon.
That is not good, mate. That is not good at all. To give you a bit of a comparison, I am still on 151 miles range.
Well, my average MPG now is 21.6, so I'm going to be in the ones in a minute.
Which is still a stretch for a C63, let's be honest. From what I read, or even thought was the right way that was more efficient for an electric car, because speeding up, slowing down, you've got to sort of ask yourself, is it more efficient to speed up and judge the traffic and coast than it is to speed up, slow down? Because obviously the slowing down is regenerating your batteries, you're getting your regen. However, because it slows you down so much, you have to then press on the accelerator again to speed back up. That's then using power. So is it better to sort of coast as much as you can? Surely it is.
So Benji, we're doing 60 on a 60 dual carriageway. Since when do you do 60 on a 60?
I am a very upstanding and law-abiding citizen, my friend. This is how I drive.
So what you're trying to say is, you've got to drive like a fairy for miles just to get the range out of the car. You can't drive like you normally do.
Well, no, but that's exactly the same in the car that you've got. The claim mileage on that car and the miles per gallon will be based on somebody driving it like a fairy.
Yeah, but I want this test to become a little bit more of a real world test. Can't you drive the car properly?
This is how electric car owners drive their cars, mate. They're conscious about money and range.
I ain't waiting around. See you later.
Ta-ra! Makes an absolute racket, that car. Sounds good though. I've got the regen currently in automatic, so the car is monitoring the traffic in front. If the traffic starts to slow down, this car automatically starts to slow down, as well as if you come up to a junction, it starts to slow down if it can see that there's a, you know, there's a junction, a roundabout, something like that. What I think I'm going to do on the way back is put the whole thing in manual and just try and regen myself and see if that makes any difference, because the range then, coming through that tiny little village then, there was probably, what, a mile, maybe 2 miles tops, but it's used 6 miles. What, I mean, what's your guys' thoughts? What do you think?
So we're going downhill now, so I've got a plan how I can actually get the e-tron to actually do less mileage. So let's see what Benji's got to say about this.
Whoa, what are you brake checking me for, you lunatic?
Was you regen braking then, mate?
No, I wasn't, but you nearly had a Mercedes e-tron for a second then. I've no idea what he's doing. I'm trying to coast, particularly downhill. I know people say you should regen brake. If you know that you're coming to a complete stop, that makes sense. Like now, down this hill, there's a set of traffic lights just down there that are on red. We're coming into a 30 as well. So I've got my regen braking on as much as it will possibly go on, because I know I'm going to stop anyway. So I see what you're doing to me here. You're literally just trying to get me to go faster to cut my range up, but you've actually given me 3 miles.
Well, that wasn't the plan. I just got really, really bored driving at the speed limit.
How many miles have we done, mate?
51 miles.
Nice, and I've got 128 miles in my range on this car.
And you started off with 174, so you're actually doing better than the real world mileage on that car, whereas I'm on 22.1. I'm 1 mile under what Mercedes say I should be getting out of this car, which is not too bad really.
Well, no, because generally speaking, you know, manufacturers talk a load of nonsense, don't they, when they're talking about efficiency and all that kind of stuff. So the problem is that we've driven so slow. And nobody in the real world really, unless you're towing a caravan or you're sort of, you know, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, no one drives that slow, do they?
Well, I think after this video, there's another one due. You know, what is the difference between driving spiritedly and driving like a fairy, basically, the way you've driven it today?
It's amplified in an electric car because you're constantly thinking, well, I can't just nip in and go and top up the fuel and you know, crack on with my journey. So you're always thinking about the range more now, whereas no one was arsed in petrol cars really. Cars like this, although they're making sports performance cars, like that e-tron RS GT thing with like 650 horsepower, are you going to be driving that around like this?
Well, if you are driving it around like this, there's no point in having all that equivalent horsepower.
But then I'd say that if you drove it round like a lunatic, like how we would like to drive that car, the mileage is going to be, like, the range will be shocking.
How's the boring trip gone?
Terrific, Rodders, terrific.
Go on, how many miles have you got?
I've got 126 miles left in the range there, mate.
So you drove that ridiculously slow.
Really?
Yeah, you did.
Whose opinion is that? It wouldn't be in the Caravan
Mine.
Club's opinion.
It's the most boring drive ever.
It was boring. I drove slow. But that just goes to show that if you drive very slow, you can get the range out of it.
We've done 64 miles, 22.6 mpg, which I think that's not too bad.
That's amazing.
So when the manufacturer says like, oh, it does 23 miles to the gallon, that's usually in one of them wind tunnel things, surely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've done it in normal conditions. I've driven this like a fairy. So I put my foot down a couple of times just to, I was bored. I was really bored.
Well, it started on 174 miles and now it's on 126. How good's your maths?
48.
48 miles of range I've used in this car, yeah.
I can't be right. We've done 64 miles.
That's what I'm saying to you. I'm a professional electric car driver.
So you've proven that this car actually does what the manufacturer says, right?
Well, close to, because that's what, at the moment as it stands, that's going to do 16 miles over 174 miles, right? Mm-hmm. So that then is 190 miles. They say it'll do 215.
Yeah, but real world, on the internet, people are saying 175 is the real world range. I've been driving this through the winter. I've got nowhere near 175, never mind 190. But it is nice today. Yep. You've turned, let's be honest, you've turned everything off.
There's no aircon on, there's no heated seats on, there's no radio on.
That's not real world, is it, surely?
Not really,
I mean, you could have done with the aircon before.
Oh, I could have, yeah, definitely.
So what we're going to do, on the way back, we're going to drive it spiritedly, with a few things on that you would normally use, aircon.
Right. Well, I'm not sure about that, actually, because that straight away went from 126 miles range to 119, so that took 7 miles off my range straight away. And that, by the way, is based on how I was driving. So that's going to be even less, isn't it, surely, if, you know, we drive back normally.
roads, and I must admit that is much more enjoyable to drive them roads, and the average MPG has only gone down to 21.9, so not really lost that much on the fuel economy. When this runs out, from me driving it a little bit more like spiritedly, I can just go fill it up. What is your range?
104.
So total now we've done 89. You are actually into the 190s now if you carried on driving the way you're driving it. But we have been driving a little bit different. It's not really affected your range that much.
And I reckon if we stayed as we were driving through the lanes, like sort of, and on the dual carriageways and things, and if we carried on doing that, the range would vary very quickly, because it went down to like 97 at one point. But a lot of this through the town and up and down and stuff has regened quite a lot back.
And you've still got your air conditioning on.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. I've definitely got it on.
You've done 94.
That's how many miles it's took off the range, is 94 miles.
Yeah.
How many miles have we done?
We've done 112 miles. This has 22.6 average MPG. Not too bad really. And we've been sat in traffic, so we're going to fill that up. 41% is the battery capacity now, but it's a 120 kilowatt charger. So if that was completely empty, that would only take probably 40 minutes to charge up. But because it's only half, I reckon 20 minutes and that should be filled up. So the e-tron needed about 60% of the battery charging up. Basically £17 it needed in the car, right? £17 to drive the e-tron 112 miles.
Yeah.
The problem now is, because we're at the services, £198.
Don't give me that a problem now.
I mean, it was £1.80 this morning.
So you've already gone past me.
I'm thinking about £30.
Right, and the rest. So there's £30 dealt with. So there's over double.
Stop.
40
This
notes.
can't be right, is it?
So nearly 45 quid, nearly £45.
I'm devastated.
So it's almost £30 more expensive for the same trip is what we've established here.
That is the equivalent of 15 pence per mile, and this one 40 pence a mile.
Big difference.
And this one has been driven very, very easily, as that was driven very, very easily. But this was a bit of a daft test. Obviously, you're never going to compare these two cars.
No, but we do it because we can, and we've got the cars.
Yeah.
So it's why not?
But for me, it was how far away were these two cars?
Yeah.
And now we know, 25 pence a mile away.
And do you think it's worth it for the noise?
Yes, of course I do. So,
Worth every penny.
if you're going to own an electric car, I think you need two cars, an electric and something to have fun in.
Yeah.
If you have that opportunity. And obviously it all comes down to the money, right?
Of course it does, yeah. And do you know what? Not everybody is into cars and driving spiritedly and stuff like that. So a lot of you guys are just like, do you know what? I'm fine with the electric car. I'll tootle it round. That's all I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But for people like us at this current stage, by owning purely an electric car, it wouldn't work. What we must stress is that was obviously based on nearly £2 a litre at service station prices at BP Ultimate, wasn't it? 97 RON. So obviously the premium fuel, although it's only 97 RON, not 99. And this was based on service station electricity at 39 pence per kilowatt hour. Both cars you can fuel and run cheaper. We just wanted to try and make it fair, you know, by doing it that way around.
Yeah, and obviously that you can fuel that, when I say fuel, electricity fuel that, much cheaper than we've paid.
Yeah.
You can't really fuel this any cheaper, only when the fuel prices come down a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is on the top end of the scale, and this is just on the average end of the scale at the moment. So a bit of a twist in the tail of today's story, because when we went to charge this car up, even though the charger was 120 kilowatt, it actually took over an hour to fill the car back up, 60% of it. But
which is nowhere near 120 kilowatts. We worked it out at about 30 kilowatts an hour.
Yeah.
Which is weird. We Googled it and checked, and this can take 120 kilowatt hour charging. But for some weird reason, that charger, even though it said it was capable of 120 kilowatts, didn't charge it at that. I tell you what, the biggest surprise was for me, you were saying that you were struggling to get the claimed mileage of what the car was telling you, whereas I managed to get 16 miles over what the car was telling me.
Yeah, but you had everything turned off.
Yeah?
You're driving it in not far off summer conditions.
15 degrees is not summer conditions.
I've been driving it through the winter in the frost and rain and everything. The lights haven't been on.
With the same coat.
Yeah, well, don't even bring my coat into it, because everyone's going to comment now saying about my coat. Anyway, That's been driven through the winter.
Yeah.
Then I get, you drove that, obviously, like a fairy.
A professional.
And you've done a very good job.
Professional, thanks mate.
Well,
I think what you meant was professional, not a fairy.
no, fairy,
And not a
professional fairy. Professional fairy.
Absolutely smashed it. If anybody needs any help or advice on how to drive an electric car, just give me a shout.
If you enjoyed today's video, hit a subscribe.
Thanks
we'll
very
see you
much.
on the next one.
Yes, see ya.
See you later.